Again, you're given an optional question here, and our opinion is if you're doing an optional question, it's going to give you better options in life. I realize this would be an unfair exam question, but the bottom line is it's not so much about taking exams, it's being curious and learning the material. So what we're asked to find the value, the real value of x minus y, given this equation over here. So I'm going to use what you learned in Math 100. So in Math 100, they basically say if you see a square root in a problem, the square both sides, and it might make it easier to deal with the problem. So let me write this down for you. So if I square the left side, let's write this over here. I would square the right side. And your teachers in Math 100 told you there are troubles with this, but for the most part, they said proceed anyway. So what do you get in the left side? You would get x minus 2 root xy, and then you would, whoops, sorry about it, forgot something there, didn't I? Plus y, and then on the right side, you're going to get x plus 1 minus 2 root x plus y times y minus 1 plus y plus 1. I'm sorry, y minus 1. All right, let's take a look. I'm starting to see things immediately. I'm seeing I can subtract x from both sides, and that disappears. I could subtract y from both sides, and that would disappear. I notice the minus 1 plus 1 on the right side disappears. And now I'm left off with something pretty simple, by the way. I'm left off with minus 2 root xy equals minus 2 root x plus 1 times y minus 1. And I'm going to divide both sides by minus 2 and then square both sides. Let's write that down. So you get, if you divide by minus 2, you get this, and you get this. And if I square both sides, you would get xy equals x plus 1, y minus 1. Let's go through this. You get xy. On the right side, you get xy minus x plus y minus 1. Well, lo and behold, again, something nice happens. This disappears. And let's write down what you get. And what do you get? Well, let's get it out to one side. You get x minus y equals minus 1. And I see that answer right over here. All right? So I realize a lot of students say, I'm done now. And this would be their answer. I got to be honest with you, I'd be happy to see that from a student. Unfortunately, it's not the correct answer, by the way. So what I want to do is I want to go to the next stage and determine why it's not a correct answer. But this is not correct. But you kind of told what you were told to do in Math 100, which is get rid of the radicals by squaring both sides. But your teachers furthermore said you probably should check your answers. It's a little tough to check this answer, by the way. So let's talk about what I think you should do. And it pertains to this section of the notes about the domain and range. All right? So what I want to do is I want to get the x on the one side, y's on the other. And the original equation, let's take a look at it, is this guy over here. And I want to get the x on one side, y's on the other. So put this over here. Root x minus the root x plus y equals the root of y minus the root of y minus 1. Let's talk about one side at a time. Let's just talk about the left side. Now I want to kind of look at visually what this would look like. So I want to look at the domain of it. And the domain of that would be from 0 off to infinity. I'm going to graph that. So I'm going to graph out over here what this looks like to me. So if I started at 0, right, the first point, I'm starting at 0. What's the point you'd get? You'd get 0, you get minus 1. I'll put this over here. Now, by the way, you can take other points, and I know it's difficult, but you have to start to realize is we're moving in a direction to the right. And I hope you realize that the root of x minus the root of x plus 1, looking at it, the larger and larger these numbers get, the closer and closer this thing's going to get 0. But it's always going to be from below. So I'm going to say something like this over here. So now I'm going to put the range down for this. And what's the range going to be? Well, I mean, going, left to right or bottom to top, I'm going to say it bottoms out at -1 and goes up to 0. All right? Now, by the way, I think I'm done with that side. And I want to go to the other side. But I realize I got trouble here. I want to graph it out. All right? Whoops, I didn't mean to do that part. Sorry about that. I erased something I shouldn't have erased. All right? But I'm pretty comfortable with this guy over here. Let me write this down over here. Domain is from 0 to infinity. And the range of this guy over here is going to be from -1 to 0. Not going to touch that 0, by the way. All right? Let's take a look at the other side. And I'm going to graph that too. But graphing that's getting a little strange. And I'll put this over here. Root y minus root y minus 1. I'm just going to say it's just a function of y now. Put a little graph down over here. This is y, and this is f of y. Oops. Okay. Let's take a look at it. The domain of this guy over here, looking at it, it's going to be starting at 1. So the domain of this over here goes from 1 to infinity. Well, let's take a look at what happens at 1. At 1, you're going to get what number? And again, we're at 1 here. That's on the y, by the way. You're going to get 1 up here. Now, what do I know about this? I know that root y minus root y minus 1, as we move towards the infinity, this thing's going to go towards 0. So I'm going to say it looks sort of like this over here. All right? So I think I can write the domain down in this thing. And the domain of this guy over here is 1 to infinity. And the range of this guy over here, looking at it, it's at 0, and it goes up to 1, and it touches it, actually. Now, what's interesting about this over here, I hope you realize we're trying to get the ranges to have a number they have in common. And this is an often way to say this, that this thing will have no solution. And why is that? These two sets never intersect. There's no place they could agree. They don't intersect. There's no place they could agree. So there'd be no solution to this problem. This problem has no solution to it. In other words, there are no x's and no y's that would satisfy that equation. All right? So what do I know about? There's no x's and no y's. I couldn't possibly subtract them. There'd be no answer over here. So again, there's no solution over here. So the appropriate response over here is no solution to that. There is no answer to that. Thank you.